So my name is Auriga Default Menares from LiveAction. So in this session, I'm actually going to show you a demo of our new product, LiveUX. So what you're seeing here is our dashboard. And the dashboard is really showing you two dimensions. On the left-hand side, we call these donuts. The two donuts are really showing you, like at a glance, how my services are doing. And on the right-hand side, a different dimension is want to illustrate, how my users are doing. Are they having good experience or bad experience? Standard red, yellow, green to kind of draw your attention that, hey, if I'm looking at this, there are a lot of things going on. Honolulu and my geography is not very good. Sydney and all these places are actually having bad experience. So, like a typical use case from the customer is, hey, I have a user complaining that it's bad experience. So first thing I would do is, okay, just show me when you see by the way, when you see the wheel spinning, that means that we're actually trying to get data, refresh the data. I think it's every 2-3 minutes that we do that. So first thing I would do is, okay, just, if you're sitting outside of the firewall trying to hit a surface that is inside my firewall, first thing I want to do is, hey, are people having bad experience from outside of my network? With one click away, and you can see that, how many greens, red, yellow, and dots. Let me just go through quickly that, the different measurements that we're taking. So availability is really whether the site is up or down. And it's a simple calculation. If the test passes, then it's good to go. And if it fails, then, you will see the percentage drops. Network latency is, we capture that by doing network ping test. And by the way, some of the tests over here, for example, the gray out one, not this one. So you see the SaaS Office 365 is grayed out. That means that, I noticed that a lot of the websites don't respond to ping, and that's why I just ended up disabling that. So that's what that means.
So on network latency, if I'm thinking about a global organization that has maybe a web server hosted in another country 120 milliseconds away, generally that's considered poor latency, right? Yes. But if it's always 120 milliseconds away, how do we kind of, does it learn that this is normal?
Great question. Yes, that's what, we're planning to learn that. In fact, like when the tool was deployed, that's what we were, in our customer beta site, that's what we actually found. Like if it was coming from India, it's normal. That's normal latency. So we are doing baselining. I should say that the tool is going to be available in July. So, we're not shipping until, another month. But that is definitely something that we're planning to do is, using standard deviation, a sliding window, the tool would learn what's normal and what's not normal. And, like the goal really is to reduce the number of alerts. And also, more importantly, like that red, yellow, and green, if we don't get it right, there's just way too many false alarms. And the 5 months that we deployed in the customers, that when I was working with this customer, I built my mental model, right? That, if it's red, it's probably an outlier, that kind of thing. So we realized that it was so critical to have that baselining ability. So I know it's a long answer, but yes. We are planning to do the baselining. And also, I was speaking to a customer. They also wanted us to give them the ability to even though the tool would be able to learn, they also want to have the ability to set the threshold manually because they actually have a specific SLA with certain, providers and so on and so forth. But ideally, they should never have to, manually configure the thresholds.
And in terms of availability, what's the time frame with that? So if it says 50%, it's been 50% in the last hour?
Yes. So we are looking at the last hour, right? So it comes with the ability to change the, let's look at the course of the day or week. And in our first release, we're thinking of 90 days of data retention. So you could go as far back as 90 days. We already have customers asking, could you do beyond, right? The short answer is actually yes. We have a cloud component, and we want it to be just the fact that the long-term storage is going to be on-prem. We think it's very doable if you want to go beyond. I know that there might be challenges if it's in the, if the data is stored in the cloud. But the fact that we're on-prem, we actually think is very, very doable. But again, initially, 90 days.
Yeah, I've got two questions actually. So with this, do you have the ability to real-time real time at a granular level monitor jitter on the network, as opposed to simply monitoring latency. Right. So for video experience, voice experience, right.
That goes back to the IPS-LA because
Yeah.
it's really rich in that already. So I really think you should take advantage of that because all those tools have been.
Yeah, I mean, because latency is good, and I mean, just to know sort of a baseline how is something responding, but jitter is really, in that regard, kind of more important almost, right?
Absolutely. At this point, initially, so we're focusing on web transactions, so we actually don't have jitter measurement at the minute. But because the fact that our flagship product does do like full support of IPS-LA, we do want to merge the two together. It doesn't matter whether it's the agents that are doing the testing or it's leveraging IPS-LA in the midpoint, at least the part of the network that is managed by you, we'll be able to show you that. Again, we don't yet have that, but that's definitely on our roadmap. We already are getting customers to ask us to support, any-to-any, agent-to-agent from a voice over IP perspective. That is on the roadmap. Right now, we can't really count on the fact that you can deploy another agent, because it might be a software as a service application, and that's why we wanted to be able to address both. But great comments and great questions. That we definitely are planning to do that.
Okay. And then secondly, do you actually have an executive view with just a big green?
Okay. So we went through the global, but similar concept on the private agent side. You could just see, hey, like if you have an agent deployed, a lot of the customers are interested in deploying a private agent, like in large sites, remote sites, and what have you. So a simple click by filtering out the global and private, you'll be able to tell that, yeah, things are actually looking good, right? And, so that's the concept about, like quick and dirty, manage and unmanage on the network side. You can apply the same concept on the left-hand side is you can actually group your applications, SaaS applications, do I care, critical applications, or even applications that are hosted in your data center. Just, like going over here and setting filters, like it should be fairly quick for you to identify that is it all customers that are having problems, or, one site, multiple site, global, you kind of get the idea.
In the top right corner, I see a map of the world that's centered on the Atlantic Ocean. If I wanted to have a custom map, can I do that? And part B of that question is, can the maps be layered? For example, let's say I'm in US, France, India, and Australia. I want to find out what's happening in Australia, so I click on Australia. Now I can see all my centers in Australia. Then I click on one of them, I can see inside there. Do you have the hierarchical views of that? Because I don't always want to see the world.
Yes.
Or my view of the world may be sub that.
Yes. So I think the map actually I wanted to say that it remembers. I know that I have it in the backlog, right? But I don't think it's been implemented because we have customers that are, being based in Hawaii. Our first customers is actually the Department of Education in Hawaii. So they only want to see the islands, right? So, like I think we were talking about, not implemented yet, so sorry, I can't show it to you. But they only wanted to see the islands. So the short answer is yes, you can customize your map, but just not yet, right? Short answer is yes. And your second question was the laying hierarchies. We don't have that. That's actually really, really, I don't even have that.
It's similar to the question earlier about the big green button, because hierarchy -1 is an executive layer, and they don't want to see all this. They just want to get a go, no-go feeling thing. So no detail. Executives don't understand detail. They're like little children.
Yeah.
So make it simple for them.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, we need to be able to see something. And if I see a red donut and it happens to be in Australia, I don't want to see the whole world. I want to go to Australia and find out where in Australia that is. And keep on drilling down until I find out what the issue is.
Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to go drill down. Since the TechField Day appears to have some issues on the response times from the agents, so now I'm going to drill down next level, and it's only going to show, okay, currently I have 2 agents that I'm monitoring from our Honolulu site. You know what? I think that's because I have the filter only showing me private agents. So I'm actually going to show you all the agents that I am doing the measurements to your website. And you can see that, like similar type of statistics, but in the next level down, we do elevate all the HTTP error responses or return codes. Hopefully it makes it easier for customers to see that. And actually, it was really interesting. We deployed this in another customer, and they didn't, they had a lot of redirects. They actually had the first redirect, and then it goes to the HTTPS, and then from HTTPS, it actually goes to the English website. So I thought that was very interesting. So let's go next level down. Let's look at Paris. If you're sitting at Paris, going to your website, and this is right now. Oh, I'm looking at a day. Let's make it an hour. It's just easier to look at the hour data. Okay. So now we're looking at like coming from the agent from Paris. The last hour, every 5 minutes, is doing a measurement. So I can actually click on any one of these measurements and go next level down, and that's your waterfall report.
Yeah, well, some of my feedback in the primer for this is that we have a hard time determining where the best place for this sort of visibility is, especially when you're monitoring SaaS services. Basically all you're really doing is you're monitoring the SLA of those providers, like our e-commerce sites. So if I want to see the user experience against our e-commerce site, that's all Akamai, right? In the case of like a smaller site like Tech Field Day is going to be Cloudflare. So all you're really doing is you're monitoring the SLA of those providers, but it's still valuable insight to and it's good to know. But those providers themselves should give you some metrics as to how they're performing too, and so it's determining the best place to get that visibility. Something that we've been kind of.
Well, you could be monitoring. You could actually be monitoring the, Cloudflare, AWS, whatever you're hitting, but you're also monitoring the path, right, all the way through from you and the agent through whatever your network infrastructure is. Right. So that goes back to the granularity comment earlier. It's like how much it shows you when you hit that website, like where specifically in your architecture the problem is coming.
I would be, generally speaking, I'm more interested in this for the internal site, network and the internal sites that aren't, hitting a provider. But the SaaS stuff, and it's getting to be more and more of our workload is all over the place, right? We've got workload in our private data center, we've got workload going hybrid, we've got workload in SaaS, we've got users on both sides of the fence now, so it's just a very complex world, and so visibility, the more visibility you have in all those different vectors, the better off you're going to be.
Which I think, as she said, it was unfortunately off camera, but their original platform, their NPM platform, does that already. LiveUX is separate from that, doing the SaaS piece, and they're going to be bringing all of their existing NPM features over into this new product as things progress.
So is it so much that they're bringing it over, or it already exists, and this is just augmentation of the existing product?
No, she said they're bringing all that over, because that old platform is going away.
Oh, it is?
So they're going to be
I misunderstood that.
Yeah, they're going to be bringing all of that stuff over.
The UI of it?
The UI of it. So right now there's like APIs in between the new product and the old product, and we're bringing in the data as part of this as quick as we can. But the idea is that the Java UI that you so much love will be unfortunately going away.
It's too bad.
Right?
So sad. I love Java.
But there will be separation between the two in some way,
Say no
because
whenever.
the other has the NetFlow collector capabilities, it has that SNMP polar and things like that, and this other component is more of aggregation of data sources from the agents themselves and things like that. But as far as the user is concerned, they see the the correlations between those two things. So it would include the IPSLA, it would include the NetFlow, the IFMIP information, the stuff from CBQOS, as well as the user traffic, the agent traffic that's.
So for every service, you can configure the thresholds, right? Like availability, at what point you want it alerted. So let me just go click on any one of these. So you can set the network latency when you want it alerted. And here, then you can actually, flag that and say, hey, don't show me any alerts. Because when we were deploying in a customer site, we knew that we needed something like, once in a while, there is a hiccup. And the other thing is that many sites seem to have issues as well with HTTP error code. So you can also say that, hey, don't flag me if you see 403 or things like that. So you do have that option. Like that. Okay. So what I'm showing here, there's like actually 4 agents from different locations. I'm just going to make sure that I click just to show one. It's easier just to show one path analysis. all right, there we go. Okay, let me just stop here for a little while. So, so the agent from where the agent is, this agent, if I was the mouse over, then that was the from our private agent, and it would run a trace route all the way to the server that the web server we're testing is actually SAT. It's an SAT site that we're testing that are hosted. So if I keep mousing over, then you would actually see, let me just start this again. Then it will show you the IP address, and you can tell that this is actually our switch. And then you keep mousing over, then that's the router, and then it's 1 or 2 more hops, then you're going to see, yeah, a couple more hops. I actually chose to, okay, about the 6th hop. Then you actually see the quest.net. And then all the way towards to where the server is, you're going to see that it's actually hosted at rackspace.net. Let me just pause here for a minute.
That was very manual, and if I wanted to have this up on a big screen someplace, that display would not be very useful because it's just a bunch of dots. Okay. Is there some way to annotate that so it doesn't have to be manually hovered over?
Yeah, I think we wanted to do that, but right now I agree it's actually manual. By the way, I didn't capture that. The table underneath that you actually see the. It's actually easier to see it from the table first, and then you go back and see the graph is actually easy to show you that green, yellow, and red, and it's actually easier to see that there's multiple paths. But I agree that if you want to drill down further, it's actually easier to look at the table.
And can you have transforms of that? For example, if it was a trace route, it's 12 hops, and it's all in the U.S. as an example. Draw me a map of the U.S. and show me the paths.
Yes, we actually have that, but not.
I ask this is because there's different scenarios,
yes.
problems, and not everybody needs the same type of information.
Yes, we actually do, but not on the demo though. But we actually have tried it out in the the short answer is yes. So we actually lay this over on the map, and then we. I think someone told me that one of our customers even said that, why don't you just get the DNS and do, because you notice that, I don't know if you saw that some of the trace route came back and didn't have the DNS, actually the domain name, that we could actually go and get that data from someplace else, even though we didn't get that response back from trace route. So we would be able to see where the location is, and then we actually did attempt it in the development, mapped it over, laid it over a map. That's exactly what you were suggesting.
For some of us who don't have internet access to run this, you may want to look into another source because you can't look it up. Point to a flat file or CSV or something that says this is the location equivalent, lat long, and so we can do that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. All right, so, and then when you drill down on the, let me just stop here for a minute. So when you drill down on the routers that are managed by you, so you'll be able to see, this is the live action data set. That's the egress interface, and that is the router. And we'll be able to see the traffic. So basically, this is flow data that we'll be able to see that what other traffic is happening at the same time when your test is running, what is competing for the bandwidth. And if I keep playing, then you would actually see that the various traffic, you can actually mouse over and you'll see that what traffic is also going on at that same time. And we're also going to bring in QoS type data as well as link utilization as well.
So those application names are actually coming in from NBAR, from the router side as well. So that's the classic product, collecting all that information, and then we're running reports on, well, what information, what flows did you see on that interface during this time period, and then we're able to see it competing against the synthetic traffic.
NBAR is typically sampled.
NBAR would be, if you do the integration with NetFlow plus NBAR, it would be on a per flow basis.